Welcome to This Explainer, where we're going to take your AI communication skills and completely upgrade them. Let's be real for a second. If you've been using tools like ChatGPT or Claude and you feel like you're basically just throwing words at a wall to see what sticks, you're definitely not alone. But today we're moving past that trial and error guessing game and turning this into a structured, highly repeatable engineering discipline.
Here is our game plan for this masterclass. We'll cover the paradigm shift, the 5 ingredients of a prompt, the CO Star framework, pro-prompting techniques, and finally, prompting as infrastructure.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the paradigm shift. We really have to rethink our entire approach to talking to AI.
So tell me if this sounds familiar. You ask this incredibly brilliant AI a question, and it gives you back a generic, unhelpful, or maybe even totally hallucinated answer. It's frustrating, right? Well, I want you to know the problem usually isn't the AI. It's almost always the prompt. Because before you can write a great prompt, you actually need an accurate mental model of what you're talking to. If we get this wrong, literally everything else we cover today is just going to feel like guesswork.
Here's the fundamental truth about large language models, or LLMs. Yes, they have billions of parameters, but they aren't reasoning in the human sense. They don't actually know facts the way a traditional database does. They are essentially hyper-advanced autocorrects. During training, they just learn statistical patterns. So when you hit send on a prompt, the model is simply optimizing for plausible-sounding continuations. It's just predicting the most probable next piece of text, one single token at a time.
And that leads us to a massive myth bust. The myth is that AI is conscious, or that it's thinking through your problem. The reality? Any output that looks like human reasoning is honestly just a byproduct of pattern completion. Think about it. If your prompt is vague, there are millions of plausible next tokens, so the AI just defaults to generic fluff. But when you write a highly specific prompt, you force the model into a tiny, narrow probability space, which forces it to produce the exact pattern you actually want.
So how do we actually treat it? I want you to imagine you just onboarded a brilliant new contractor, a well-read assistant who has literally read everything ever written on the internet, but, and this is crucial, has absolutely zero memory of you, zero lived experience, and absolutely no context about your specific business. You would never just hand that contractor a laptop and say, fix the bug. No way. You'd give them the repository, the Jira ticket, the coding standards. Every single time you open a new chat window, you have to provide that exact same level of context.
Now that we've got the right mental model locked in, let's move to Section 2, the 5 ingredients of a prompt.
Every single effective prompt is built from a surprisingly small set of ingredients. It's really just like a recipe. You start with your instruction, the actual task, like summarize or refactor. Next is context, the background story the model is missing. Then, input data, the raw material you want it to operate on. Output format is how you plate the dish. Maybe you want a table or a JSON file. And finally, constraints and tone. These act as your guardrails, telling the model exactly what to avoid and what vibe to use. Once you know these elements, you can instantly diagnose and fix a prompt when the output falls flat.
Let's contrast two approaches here. A weak prompt, something like explain Kubernetes. You throw that in and you're getting a generic, dry Wikipedia-style page. But a strong prompt? It defines the audience. Explain Kubernetes to a back-end dev who knows Docker. It demands a specific format. Use a 4-step analogy, then a 150-word text summary. And it sets a hard negative constraint. Avoid marketing language. By layering in those ingredients, you completely bypass the generic patterns and you get exactly what you need on the very first try.
Okay, so repeatability is the name of the game here, which brings us to Section 3, the CO Star framework.
The CoStar framework is basically a foolproof template designed to strip all the ambiguity out of your prompts. It stands for context, objective, style, tone, audience, and response format. When you structure your prompts to explicitly answer each of these 6 variables, you are guaranteeing that the model understands your intent. It's the absolute best way to ensure you don't end up with a dense 10-page academic essay when all you really wanted was a quick bulleted summary for your marketing team.
Let's apply this to a real scenario. If you just say, tell me the risks of migrating, you're rolling the dice. But with CO Star, you specify the context, a sovereign cloud migration, the objective, summarize the top 3 risks, the style, technical, tone, neutral, audience, the CTO, and the format, a markdown table. It's night and day. And honestly, teams that standardize on this exact CO Star structure see way less variance between their prompts. It's an absolute game changer for collaboration when multiple engineers are querying the same internal AI tool.
Once you've got CoStar baked into your daily workflow, it's time to level up. Section 4 is all about pro-prompting techniques.
Before we get into the heavy technical tactics, never ever forget this one core rule. Prompting is a conversation. It is not a vending machine. You don't just put a coin in, press a button, and then kick the glass hoping the perfect snack drops out. Iterative refinement is everything. You've got to treat the AI's first output as a rough draft. Converse with it. Tell it, hey, make this shorter, or make it more technical, or add a section on security risks.
All right, let's talk pro techniques. If you're doing formatting-sensitive tasks like data extraction or classification, you absolutely need few-shot prompting. Zero-shot is when you just describe what you want. But few-shot? That's when you actually show the model 2 or 3 examples of your desired output before you ask it to do the real task. Remember, LLMs are the ultimate pattern matchers, so showing them the pattern is infinitely more effective than just trying to describe it with words.
Next up is a technique known as chain of thought prompting. This is brilliantly simple, but so incredibly powerful. When you're dealing with a complex reasoning task, maybe a tough math problem or a gnarly debugging issue, you literally just ask the model to think step by step before it gives you the final answer. It acts like a magic password. By forcing the model to generate those intermediate reasoning tokens first, you massively improve the accuracy of the final conclusion.
And the Pro Toolbox doesn't stop there. Need to shape the AI's entire worldview? Use role prompting to tell it, you are a senior security auditor. Need to prevent bad habits? Hit it with negative constraints, explicitly ban jargon, or tell it strictly not to invent statistics. If you're building automated pipelines, you can enforce structured outputs by demanding a strict JSON schema. You can even tweak the API's temperature dial. Keep it low when you need strict factual extraction and crank it up when you're looking for creative brainstorming.
Let's move to our final section, Section 5, Prompting as Infrastructure. This is the enterprise view for solutions architects and AI platform engineers.
If you're a solutions architect out there, listen up. Prompts aren't just one-off chat messages anymore. They are critical, high-stakes design time artifacts. Reusable prompt templates need to be treated like API contracts. Your prompting decisions directly shape your retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG architecture, dictating exactly how much context can even fit in a window. Plus, your system prompts are now acting as strict security boundaries and guardrails. They literally control what the model is explicitly allowed or completely refused to do in your enterprise environment. And for the AI platform engineers operating the layer that serves LLM traffic, your prompts have become production configuration. You can't just go in and change a prompt on the fly anymore. You need prompt versioning stored in version control, complete with rollback capabilities. You need automated regression testing right in your CI/CD pipelines, treating your golden prompt inputs and outputs exactly like unit tests. And you need deep observability, logging every token and tracking latency so you can actually debug why an output's quality inexplicably tanked last Tuesday.
Which perfectly brings us to our conclusion. Prompt engineering starts as a basic communication skill to talk to a very literal amnesiac assistant, and it ends as a rigorous system-level engineering discipline. Whether you're just drafting an email or building out complex enterprise AI architecture, the core truth is exactly the same. The clearer the instruction, the more reliable the intelligence. If these models are only as smart as the prompts we feed them, the real question we have to ask ourselves is, are your current prompts limiting the AI's potential, or are they unlocking it? Thanks so much for watching.